Hello, Lola. Hello. You okay?
I'm doing good, thanks. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right. I'm okay. I've just been dodging the weather outside. Oh my God, it was crazy out there. Felt like
It's
I was gonna
crazy
blow away.
times. I mean, everything's changing every hour.
Legit. I mean, it's sunny 1 minute, sun's out and it's blazing, and then the next minute you're taking off in the tornado, your hair's up here, I thought, oh my God, Lola's gonna think I look crazy. I've just come out the crazy bin with my hair up in the sky. You know
Well,
what I
I was
mean?
you yesterday after getting caught in hail, so don't worry.
Oh God, oh my God, hail. I don't know how I'd deal with that with, the ice cubes in my hair. I ain't about that. I'm not
I
about that.
know.
But you look great. You're glowing. You're actually glowing.
Oh, thank you.
You are. I mean, I've got just about a million filters on this camera to, hide all the, I'm not being very real. Not being very real. I'm gonna have to interview you like this. Have my chin in the air, keep my double chin out the camera.
You look great.
It's all right. My chin will go anyway. We're only young, anyway. It'll go eventually. But yeah. But I'm ready to start whenever you are.
I'm ready whenever you are.
That's banging. That's banging. So the new EP, Dreamer, is out now. Are you happy with how things have gone, creatively from like a creative standpoint?
Yeah, I'm really happy. It's interesting because like when you're making music, you're like in the tunnel of it and you're trying to pull out the sounds and think, what kind of sonic world am I creating? What kind of emotions am I trying to pull out here? And then when you get to put it out in the world, it's really a special feeling to hear how people respond to it and their take on the music. So it's nice to have the music out now.
And do you find that you've had people kind of like tell you that you've had creative ideas that you can't do? Has anyone ever told you, you've had an idea and you've been like, oh, I want to do this, and I want this kind of video, this kind of artwork, this kind of song. Has there ever been an occurrence where a person's gone to you, oh no, that's not possible, we can't do that? And how have you kind of like moved through that?
Yeah, right now the way I work is I kind of call it like a cottage industry, and I have a lot of independence. So I kind of intentionally chose it to be that way because I wanted to be able to make my own creative choices without the influence of too many people behind me. And I feel very grateful that I get to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very lucky position to be in because a lot of the time artists have people, kind of like pressures from the music industry right on the back, kind of holding work and holding creativity back. But this EP, the video, everything, it's all been so creative, and it's very clear from like an audience standpoint that you've had the chance to kind of get all these messages across that you wanted to get across, and all kind of like it's gone how you've wanted it to go. Um, you're from like London, aren't you? So like
Yeah.
how was kind of your background growing up there? Did you have a good childhood? Like did things go well? I mean, I've heard you talk about before, for this EP that a lot of the songs are kind of like based around that time period. What was it like growing up there?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had a happy childhood and I was really drawn to music from a young age. My school had an incredible music department, and from like 7 years old till I left school, I was singing all different types of genres and I was in the choirs, and it just felt like it was part of my identity from a very young age. And when I was like 17, I started to write music, and I was looking toward the future going like, if I can make my adult life about music, I'd be so happy. So yeah, dream is kind of about that as well.
Yeah, yeah. And you've got a very um kind of like close connection with your mom. How has that been through like the creative process with the album? How's that been? Have you had chance to like pick her brains and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's interesting because when I first started making music, I think I intentionally wanted to be quite independent and find my sound on
Yeah.
my own and feel like I kind of could earn my stripes as a songwriter. And through experience and writing more and more songs, I started to kind of feel like confident in myself. And when I reached that, I was able to have more conversations and like great open dialogues with my mom. Like she's, a real inspiration to me, and she has a really amazing insight into kind of trying to pull the most you can out of yourself and to keep
Yeah.
pushing for more, being creative, and her work ethic's really admirable. So I feel I'm happy that I get to refer to her when I need to.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're very individual. I think you were very, very individual. And I think it's very important to have when you're kind of in the position that you're in. You have a very famous mom, who's very, very talented. And you are as well. And you've I think it's kind of a tougher job when you've got to kind of like come out of that and kind of like stand on your own. It's very easy for the public and audiences to be very easily like perceive things very easily, you know what I mean? So for you to come out and kind of like stand on your own as your own artist, as your own brand, it takes a lot of doing, you know what I mean? And you've done it so well.
Well, I was aware that when I put music out into the world, I felt like it had to deserve a place there and
Yeah.
deserve to be heard and connect to people. So I was extra aware of that, and I worked really hard to get to a place that I felt like it was ready. And I think a lot of people can think like, oh, when you're someone's daughter, you can bypass certain amount of it just comes easy to you. But my story's actually been there's been a lot of struggle, a lot of hard work, a lot of times when I'm like, I don't know if the music's going to come out, and a lot of like overcoming a lot of things. So I always refer back to the quality of the music and let that kind of speak for me.
Yeah, and I'm really happy that you've just said that. Really, really happy. Because a lot of other people similar in your position, they kind of just jump in it and, have all the availability to do what they want to do. So to hear, that you've come through that process, a very organic, authentic process, it's so good to hear. And it's very, again, clear to see through the EP and the work that you've been doing so far. But is it weird that people is it weird for you knowing that people are listening to you and your music? It must be kind of weird that, knowing someone in the world right now is probably listening to Dreamer and, forming opinions about it and thinking about it. And, maybe it's helping them along through the day. Is it weird to think about that?
It's not weird. I'd say it's amazing. Like, it's definitely unusual and strange, but it's like that feels like the cherry on the top, that when you put music out, people can connect to it and hear it in all these different ways. And sometimes I'll get messages saying, oh, I was listening to it and it helped brighten my day up and things like that. So it means a lot that music can really help people and shift their mood and make them feel less isolated. So it's quite amazing when I get to hear that it's connecting to people.
Yeah, definitely. And that is great to hear. And I see when I interview people, I really like to interview people that have a lot of humanity and are very like relatable. And I really try and kind of drag that out of them, when I interview them, because I want our audience to kind of like be able to see that. I think it's kind of easy to get lost kind of behind music and behind albums and stuff like that. It's really nice for an audience to be able to see you for who you are and kind of get to know a bit more about you. Do you think being relatable is important to you? As you go on through your career, do you think that's something that you're going to strive to carry on doing? Because I think you are very relatable right now. Is that important to you?
I think as a songwriter, what I'm trying to express is the human experience. I'm trying to show these ups and downs in life, the hardships, the amazing times, the unhappy times, the in love times. And for me, it's kind of an excuse to get to look at the world and look at myself and dig into those emotions. And if we're all going through any stuff, all of us, so if the music gets to kind of highlight that with people, and I think I get to connect with people through the songs and through the emotion shown in the songs, and that's kind of how we can connect together.
Yeah, definitely. And do you think that kind of like family life or kind of like personal life might affect you and your career in the future with kind of like albums and music? Do you think that can you see that somewhere along the line maybe you might have to prioritize something over music, or will it always be music?
The music feels like it's just such a part of my identity, and like it makes me feel like I'm me. So I always want to be writing and making music. I think without it, it's like an escape or a release for me. And I always want to be doing it. So I don't see myself ever parting ways with the piano and singing and writing songs. And if people hear it, that's a different thing. But I always will be writing.
Brilliant to hear. And has it been hard learning about the music industry? Have you kind of encountered kind of like problems, stuff like that? Or were you kind of aware already of what you may encounter through your journey, like through looking at your mom's journey from like being younger? were you already kind of like aware, or is that something that you've had to learn kind of by yourself?
Yeah, I mean, there's being a musician and being a creative, and then there's also navigating your way through the industry, and that's a completely different thing. And my mum went through it in the 80s, and it looked very different then to how it is now. But I think I kind of learned through the experiences. I didn't going into it, I was a bit more like, thank you, yes, amazing, like just trusting and being like, oh, I'm just happy to be here. And I kind of learned to be able to speak for myself and voice my opinions and my boundaries. And I think particularly being a woman in the industry, it's really important to be able to say no to people and to say, this is my vision and I don't really want to compromise. And that's whilst being like polite and having gratitude for the people that you work with.
Definitely, definitely. And do you think that as you grow bigger and bigger and bigger, do you think that you'll be accustomed to that kind of like spotlight, that attention?
I think you do get more used to it. I think for me, I always go back to focusing on the music. I don't think too much about like putting myself as a person out there. I kind of just go back to like letting the music lead me and guide me. And that's kind of like my North Star, is the fact that I get to write and create. I feel immense gratitude and a commitment to doing that.
Yeah. And have you enjoyed like this kind of like side of the music? I mean, obviously there's the writing process and the producing and getting it out there and people listening to it, but have you enjoyed like this side, kind of like the interview side, getting to talk about kind of like your influences and stuff like that? Have you enjoyed that?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, it's amazing getting your songs played on the radio, because you think of like the people listening and you're like, oh, it's so cool. And then it's also nice to get to share a little part about me, not just the music, but what's behind the music, a little bit about my story. And it's cool to kind of put that side of myself out there.
Yeah. And talking about like growing as an artist through like the future, is kind of like reinvention important to you? Can you see yourself reinventing yourself as you go through the decades of your career? I mean, this is kind of a tough question. This is kind of a tough question. I'm being a little bit mean asking this one because it's hard to see into the future. We haven't got crystal balls on us, but it's hard to kind of see what's going to happen. Can you see yourself reinventing, maybe moving into different genres?
I think as people, we're always evolving and changing. So I think depending on how I grow and shift through my life, I think the style and what I'm talking about of music will evolve based on my identity growing up and changing. My core love is the soulful, big voice, like sound that really feels like it's speaking from the heart. So I always kind of think I'll always be coming from that place, but also intending to have an evolution within the sound over the years.
Definitely. That's really good to hear. And like, how's performing been? Do you enjoy that kind of like side of the music? Do you have like a particular style? Is it something that you'll change again like through the future? Can you see yourself, depending on the stage that you're on? Have you had like a favorite performance?
I mean, last week I actually was lucky enough to perform at the Royal Albert Hall, which was just like a dream come true. And I stepped out and was like, wow, the room was just overwhelming. But it was Roger Daltrey. He put on a show to support the Teenage Cancer Trust. So also getting to support such an incredible charity really meant a lot to me. And that was truly a highlight.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Once again, really, really good to hear. Really good stuff. And have we got anything? I know Dream has just come out, but have we got anything else lined up throughout the year? Any kind of like dates? Anything that you want to mention?
Yeah, I'm so excited to play these songs live, like for obvious reasons. I haven't been able to play live as much as I would have liked to in the last few years, and I'm really excited to getting into a room and like sharing the music with people. I'm also going to be going back to the studio now that the EP's out and writing new material. So I'm really excited to do that.
That's great news. That is absolutely great news. That's brilliant, Lola. Thank you ever so much for coming along and giving us some insight to not only Dreamer and the EP, but you. It's really good to kind of like learn more about your background, kind of like your influences that have gone into the EP and that. It's always good for like fans and audiences to hear. And I think that's what you'll find as you grow and keep going, with fans, it's kind of never enough. They want as much as you as they can get. So it's really good for our audience and Stoke to kind of like hear from you and get to know a bit more about you. But yeah, we're so grateful for you coming along and doing the interview with us. It's been brilliant. Really good to get to know you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on and asking me interesting questions.
That's all good. And we'll carry on dodging the weather. We'll carry on dodging the weather.
Let's try, yes.